So I don't have a lot of friends, as you can imagine, and the ones I do don't live with their parents anymore. My parents' generation didn't have this problem now, where we're fully grown adults either trapped in the grind of maintaining space in the ridiculous renting market, or living with our parents. And I am the latter, living with my partner's family. And the thing I want to talk about isn't just this shift necessarily, but the eventual complications of multi generational living situations that our predecessors didn't equip us for, because they didn't have to worry about it. I'm not saying this is new. Other cultures are accustomed to several generations of a family living under one roof, but us white North Americans, at this point, are not. For our parents' generation, if it came down to it, senior parents that needed extra care got whole-ass in-law suites or put up in retirement homes. Or they died early, by 60. With my generation, we're living in our parents' houses and can't pay for our own eventual retirement, let alone supplement theirs. Where I live, it's just straight up hard to get elderly people access to those services they need. Cost aside, retirement places are full up, and nurses are too busy to visit people that need in-home care as often as they need it. Anyway, my surrounding elders have never had to experience such situations, which means none of us are prepared for the actual challenges it might pose. Of course, there's the obvious: several adults in a certain amount of space with lack of privacy, but I haven't heard anybody else talk about this weird disconnect between the older generation not just accepting their adult children as such, but being aware of them. It's kind of hard to explain. When you have kids, you become hyper aware of keeping spaces clear of dangers to them, but that eventually fades as they grow into adults, unless they're the sort to baby them their entire life. But in that pulling back of caution, there's a danger zone we're expecting where our older housemates aren't acting as if they're aware of us in our capacity as fellow adults to also live in the shared space, because they've never had communal living or sharing with other adults when they were younger ones. Let me give an example. The house owners, my partner's parents, bought a new piece of exercise equipment, which lets you hold yourself upside down. They used it one morning and mentioned to my partner that they should try it too. So I go with him and he straps in and flips upside down, but doesn't stop like it's supposed to. The whole machine went further than 180, which not only would have trapped him there if he were alone, but if I hadn't grabbed him, would have flipped the entire machine on top of him and landed on his head. He could have severely hurt himself, and when he immediately went upstairs to ask what the fuck, his mother casually mentioned that she'd taken the safety strap off it because she wanted to go further and just never put it back on. Is it wanton carelessness? Yeah, but it's kind of an example of what I'm going for here, where the thought to who comes after isn't applying. One time, my partner was asked by his parents to go check the mouse traps on the back porch, and I heard him exclaim as he stepped on a bunch of screws left on the floor in the guest room on the path to the door. Not only was it a question of why someone would leave screws in a spot anyone would step on them, but they were used screws, literal garbage that they hadn't got around to throwing out. So it's doubly bothersome that it happened, but it's just no foresight for the person that comes after. Like, I come down to do my dishes one morning and the sink is full of carrots and the dry mat has just been left scattered with dirt and there's no one around. Presumably, they're going to come back and clean it up, but not for an hour or whatever, and it leaves the question why we're constantly navigating and inhibited by half-done tasks. As much as this is a comment on individual behaviors, and a lot of things that are matters I believe to be associated with task management and undiagnosed ADHD, it's not actually an excuse in the times that it's been severe enough to cause harm to us. But also, there's something generational there too. Sure, boomers here, where I'm from, adjusted their living to raise kids, but never learned how to cohabit with other adults. They didn't have to rent and share spaces with roommates outside of any schooling, even during. The expectation was always to have their parents taken care of, not to live with them. There'd always been enough space for adults to scatter their living situations. It was always an option and expectation that any child in their generation can and would leave home. And now, millennials are moving in with their parents because they can't afford to do the same, to find that their parents don't have the awareness to comfortably coexist with them. They lack the consideration that we all adopted in our young adulthood. And the only reason I bring this up is because, although it's not the end of the world, it always seems to happen in ways that we can't have the foresight to mitigate. Because why would there be screws all over the floor? Why would I assume to check the safety on equipment I was just told to go use? It's the kind of things with an inherent sense of security that ends up being false. To assume one would do that, because we wouldn't, knowing how to stay considerate in shared spaces. I just thought it was interesting. This obviously doesn't apply generation-wide. There's plenty of considerate older people and plenty more oblivious younger people. I just found it interesting that within my immediate circle, family, friends, and where I grew up, there's a difference in social climatization for shared living visible in different life stages now. A lot of my parents' local generation didn't go to college, and renting culture wasn't a thing over just buying their own small houses, so it has amounted to some, what you might call, growing pains from younger generations now having to move in with them. Because they're not good roommates.